everybody. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Ann. Hi, Daryl. Hi, Mark. Hi, Jim.
I don't know who's logging in as me.
Isn't that weird? That happens to me
Good
sometimes.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Looks like Shayla's hopping on. We have Bill and Nancy.
Hello, Bill and Nancy.
I love everybody starting to show their face.
I love it. I love seeing people's happy faces. Thanks, Daryl, and Ann for showing your beautiful faces. We're excited today to have John here, and so we're just giving a few more minutes, and then we'll hop on this. I hope everybody had a beautiful weekend. It was definitely beautiful here in Tahoe. Definitely busy. We had a lot of people in the area visiting our beautiful location. So hopefully, Ann, I see you talking, but you're on mute.
Nice. Can you hear me?
There you go. Yeah. Did you have a nice weekend?
Yeah, I was showing, clients on weekend, and it's amazing how busy it was.
Yeah. I was surprised how busy it was too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm going to get started. It's 12:33. Hopefully more people will come on. We are so excited you guys are here. We have John Israel, and John Israel is Mr. Thank You. And I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen the TED Talks. He does an amazing, amazing TED Talk. It was an honor to see it, John. I watched it a couple weeks ago, and so before we knew you were coming on, and so we were so excited. But he started by doing please tell me if I'm not right on any of my facts, but 5 thank you cards a day when he was working at Cutco. We all know Cutco, the knife company, and a lot of us give those as closing gifts. He was working at Cutco, and people started asking him, what are you doing? Because when he started doing those thank you cards, his business really exploded. And when his business exploded, they started asking him. And so then he decided to then start doing some consulting for mortgage company, real estate people about loyalty and about what makes people loyal and bringing more people on. So he's going to share with some of us today, some of that information of how we get to have loyal clients. We all want to make sure that we have great customer relationships. So he has graciously come on. I know he's a busy man with books and with cards and his businesses. So I'm really honored to welcome you, John. And Katie Shive is here on the back end, and she'll be answering any questions we might have. Remember to chat, and she'll go ahead and make sure your questions are answered. So we are excited. And John, I'm going to let you take it from here and educate us.
Sure. Yeah. So thanks for having me, first of all. So Guild Mortgage, I was hosting this event. I'm originally from San Diego, California, which I believe is headquarters for Guild.
It is headquarters.
So, yeah. So I had some very good friends and clients with Guild. So really honored to be here. Before we start, I guess just to share with you some context of why we're here and why we're taking the time to do this is ultimately we're here to grow our businesses, right? To grow our businesses and to grow as people. And really my intention for this conversation, whatever that looks like, I'll share some stories. Katie might ask a few questions. If you have questions that come up as well, I encourage you to write them down. But ultimately, this is going to be about a couple of things. Number one is going to be about connection, right? What is it that we need to do to increase our levels of connection with each other? Right? When you look at our levels of success in life and our experience of life, how much of it is related to our relationship with other people and how much more significant we can build our business. I'm sorry, that's not the right word. How much bigger we can build our business or do big things with our life because of connections, because of relationships. And the conversation we're going to have today is about how does that work regardless of where you're from, regardless of your ethnicity, your background, what country you were born in, or who you're talking to, or any of those things as relates to them. We're going to talk about what does it take for one human being to make a really meaningful connection with another. And inside of that, how do we stay loyal? How do you just build, how do you not just, as we're in sales, right? How do you not just get more and more new clients, but rather how do you build such a relationship such that they want to come back to you, right? I think salespeople play one of the worst games in the world. It's like the world's largest game of tag. And it's like they're running around town, like
That's a
tagging
great way.
people. And it's like, I did your loan. I sold your house. You're my customer for life.
Yeah.
Where does that work? There's no way that happens, but we just have this idea that it's like, well, I did your loan one time, or you worked with me that one time. Like, you should be my customer for life.
Yeah.
Well, every success is preceded by a process. So there's things that lead up to that. So we're going to talk about loyalty. And last thing we're going to talk about is community, which is like, how does what you do really impact people at a larger scale, not just yourself? And that's because really when it comes down to what I think shifted for us with the development of the Mr. Thank You project was it wasn't just like, how do we just do something to get more business, but how do we use our business as a vehicle for change? Like, how does what we do impact our community in a positive way that we can prove? There's evidence of it. And it's easy to just say, oh, I'm helping people when I sell them a home, but really looking deeper at how do we serve people at a high level. So
wow, I'm excited about that because that's one of the big things. I don't know about you guys, but I'm always trying to figure out how do you have impact, because we do a loan and then we close it and we move on to the next, and we're so busy, but like we do a lot of things for the community. But how do you like, oh, I'm so excited, John. This is right. I hope everybody else is as excited as I am.
Awesome. So, just to like tee this up a little bit, Katie, how do you want to do this? Do you want to like ask me a question, then I'll go, or I do a lot of keynote speaking. I can jam for like 30, 45 minutes. So
whatever you prefer. I can be quiet. I just get so excited that I just want to keep at you. I can be quiet and chat you.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, so let's go with a little bit of both. So, just to kind of dive into the start of this story. So, back in 2016, I'm originally from Southern California. I live in Dallas, Texas right now. And I'm the founder of something called the Mr. Thank You Project, which is a global mission to inspire 74 million thank you cards written around the world. And just like anything we do, it starts with a decision. And so for me, that decision was in 2016 when I was one of the top Cutco closing gift guys in the country. And if you don't know Cutco closing gifts, we're basically professional gratitude salesmen. We help people say thank you for a living. That's what we do. And so I was in 2016, one of the top guys in the country. And I had a problem, which was that my life personally had changed very quickly. And all of us know that your internal life really affects your external life. How it's going at home shows up in how you show up in your business and vice versa. So for me, business was good, but we had gone through a lot of changes. We had, number one, had our first child. We bought our first house the year before. My wife decided she's going to leave her job to become a stay-at-home mom, which is cool. We were deciding on that, so that was cool. But then we find out we're expecting our second child. And then I also get a job offer to move from Southern California to Dallas, Texas to do what I did at a higher level. So all those things happened very quickly. And this job that I used to love to do, that I was grateful for, I was not anymore. And so I'm a big person in believing of like, we have personal responsibility for our experience of life and our success. So I watched the Simon Sinek Start With Why talk. And you guys seen that, by the way? Great. Start With Why.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, I'll summarize it for you. What Simon speaks about in his TED Talk is people don't care what you do. They care why you do it. And in sales, people don't buy what you sell. They buy why you're selling it. So if you want to change your life and change your business, start with why. And for me, that was a really eye-opener, because if I was honest with myself at that time, and I said, well, what is my why? My why was survival. It was making ends meet. It was getting by. It was getting deals done so that I could survive and provide for my family. Do you think my clients and prospects could feel that? 100%. We can all smell a salesperson when they need to make a sale. And I was like, well, okay, if what Simon says is correct and people don't buy what you sell, they buy why you sell it, and here's the key thing, and you get to choose your why. What might I choose to be driven by? And that's where we went through this. I'm big with business coaching. So I went through a business coaching program that helped me define my vision. And so what we got to for my team was who we are is all about elevating the level of gratitude on the planet. And it was really inspiring. It looked great. We plastered on the wall, but there was a problem. And that problem lies inside of a quote. And it's one of those quotes that once you hear it, you don't get to unhear it. And it's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he says, excuse me, I cannot hear what you are saying because who you are speaks so loudly. And for me, that really resonated, because if you went and asked 100 people who know John Israel back in 2016, what do you know about John? they might say some nice things like driven or successful, but they wouldn't say grateful or appreciative or probably even happy to describe who I was. So I thought, well, how can that be? How can I be this guy who's all about elevating gratitude on the planet, but yet I don't embody it in my life? So we thought, well, that's not fair. How can I, that's not congruent. How can I do that? How can I find a way to embody gratitude at a higher level? And I was reading this book at the same time called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Great book. And there's a concept in there he teaches called the keystone habit. And a keystone habit is a habit that you have that has a trickle-down positive effect in multiple areas of your life. And so he gives the example of working out, right? So when somebody's working out, number one, that's good for your body. It's a good habit to have. You get healthy. The second part of that is because you're working out, you drink more water. And well, turns out drinking a lot of water is actually good for you too, as Katie picks up her glass of water. That was pretty funny. And then the other piece is because you're working out, your body is more fatigued, so you actually sleep better at night because of working out. So there's all these positive trickle-down effects of this one habit called working out. So I thought for myself, well, that's interesting. I wonder what type of habit like that I could create around gratitude. And I thought about thank you cards because for me, you know, I was never a huge thank you card writer. Like I didn't do them all the time, but I had a couple of really powerful experiences. So I thought, well, what if that's what I did? I just made a commitment to handwrite thank you cards every day. And so I decided that's let's do that. Let's call this my year of thank you. That was the original name for it, the year of thank you. And I talked to my business coach and I shared with him this idea of like, yeah, I don't know specifically, but I want to like write thank you cards every day. So he says, like a good coach, he's like, well, that's great. Let's define the game. How do we know if you're winning or losing? And so we went through some rules and here were the rules. So number one, the rule was I would commit to handwrite, not text message, not email. I would handwrite 5 thank you cards every day for 365 consecutive days.
Wow.
The second rule was every day resets at 0. So this means I have to do 5 every day. I can't do 35 on Sunday. So I wanted to because part of this was I wanted it to be something that actually got me into a grateful state every day. The third piece was I could write a max of 3 cards per any one person. So this means I couldn't write 75 thank you cards to my mom, although she might have appreciated that. I just think they would lose their value if I wrote that many to one person. So I could write a max of 3 cards per one person. The fourth rule was a really interesting one because this is where my coach steps in and he says, hey, John, this sounds great, but where's the accountability, right? Like what happens if or when you miss a day? And I thought about it and I said, okay, for any or every day I miss, I will donate $100 to charity.
Wow.
Felt pretty proud about that. And well, so here's the other part of that story. He responds and says, add a 0. And I thought, wait a minute, you mean to donate $1,000 for not writing 5 thank you cards in a day? Like that's absurd. He said, well, the goal is not for you to do that, but let me ask you this, how likely is it that throughout this year, you're going to donate $100 or several $100s to charities that you care about? And I was like, well, yeah, it's kind of part of our tithing process. He's like, well, then you're giving yourself a way out. If what's at stake every day is $1,000, how many days will you miss? What do you think I said?
0.
No, yeah, 0. No, there's no way I'm going to miss a day if that's what's at stake. So so then he says, well, then what would you like to do? And that became the fourth and final rule, which was for every and every single day, any and every day that I missed writing my 5 cards, I would donate $1,000 to charity. And if you haven't done the math on that, 5 cards times 365 days is 1,825 letters of appreciation in 1 year's time. Now, you don't need to know everything that happened with that to know that when you make any high level of commitment like that in your life, you'll experience some change. Like you'll have stories and moments that change your life forever. And that's really what happened back in 2016 when I made this commitment to write 5 thank you cards every day for a year. And it was really life changing. So I'll kind of tee it up with that as far as like, that's what started everything. And it was quite an interesting year.
I have a question. So, were they short thank you cards? Like, oh, thanks, you know, or were they longer? Because I think they were a little bit more longer and more specific, weren't they?
Yeah.
Oh,
Can I give you an example of what they look like?
please.
Cool. So I'll do so through a story. I speak in story forms, just like the nature of me. But so the answer to that question really lies in like day 3 of the journey. So day 3 was I was still living in Southern California, flying to Philadelphia for an event called the Front Row Dads Retreat. Front Row Dads is a is an entrepreneurial men's organization I'm a part of, and it's a group of entrepreneurial fathers and parents who we get together, just really dads. We get together twice a year to mastermind about how becoming better husbands to our wives and fathers to our children while we run our businesses. And so back in October of 2016, this was the first event they'd ever held. So I was flying from LA to Philadelphia, so long flight. So I'm boarding the plane, and an interesting question people ask is like, well, John, it sounds like a cool project, but like, who did you write your cards to? Like, I don't even know 1,825 people I would physically handwrite a letter to. And the thing that's interesting about that question is when you make it a habit to appreciate people every day, you actually become a good finder. Like, you become somebody who is looking for people doing something right when that's not how we're wired. So there's this thing about human beings that we have what's called a negative bias, where we're actually prone to notice what's wrong before we notice what's right. So like, for example, back in caveman and cavewoman days, if we hear a growl in the bushes, we don't think it's a cute little kitty cat and get really close, right? We think saber-tooth tiger, we run away and we live another day, right? So looking for what's wrong first helped us survive for years.
Makes sense.
But how does that impact your life now? If what we're focused on initially is what's wrong here, what's wrong, what did my assistant not do? How are the loans doing? How's the business over here? And we're looking for what's wrong versus noticing what's right. There is an impact in our experience of life. So I was boarding, so I say that because when you make a habit of looking for 5 people to thank every day, you become a good finder. You're looking for people doing something right that you can affirm and acknowledge. So I board the plane and I'm thinking about who I want to thank. First people I think about are the pilots. And I thought, man, I fly all the time. Every time on takeoff, I pray for safe travel. And you know what? They've delivered 100% of the time. And I thought, well, that's right? And I thought I've never formally thanked them. And I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to thank the pilots on my plane. So I board the plane, ask the flight attendant, what are the pilots' names? I very quickly learned that's a strange question. She's never been asked by a passenger what the names of the pilots are. She gives me the names a little reluctantly, which was a little weird, but that was a new experience for me. I sit down, and then I have a problem. And and this kind of relates to your question, Katie, which is how long do you write the cards and what do you put in a really good thank you card? Yeah. And this is also really going to share with you one of our frameworks around human connection that is really, really helpful, right? So I board this plane and I sit down with the names of the pilots, and I have this question, which is, well, I don't know these people. How do you thank somebody that you don't even know, that you've never actually met? And what you learn, and this is where I love where language comes from. So the word appreciate comes from the Latin word appreciare, which literally translates to appraise or to set the value of a thing, right? So all of you are in real estate, you know what an appraisal is, right? It's the thing that your deal lives or dies on. And what is an appraisal? It's where this person comes in with a clipboard or a checklist, and they say things like, what condition is the property? When was this built? Is there any pest or termite damage? How's the foundation? What are other things like this in the area going for? And at the end of that assessment, they hand you a piece of paper that says, I deem this property to be worth X dollars. Now, how do you apply that principle to a human being? And what I learned on that flight is that you just become curious and you ask yourself questions like, what is this person's life like? What do they really care about? What really matters to them? And what came out of that, like I mentioned, is a framework. So I'm gonna share that with you guys. So I'm gonna do a quick little share of my screen. And so this is the framework. We call this the VOW framework of human connection. And so VOW is an acronym. So it's VOW. Okay, so V stands for values. What do they care about? What matters to this person? O stands for outcomes. How do they win? What are their goals? And even more so, why are these goals important to them? And then 3 is weakness. Where does it hurt? Where are they in pain? What are they struggling with? What are they worried about? And what I learned is when you ask these questions about a person, you get to know them at a deeper level. And when you think about people that you're already currently connected with at a high level, it'll make sense immediately as you see how these apply through that lens. So when you think about values, right? Think about who you're connected to really well. You probably have a shared value. Is it shared? It's kind of funny when I talk to salespeople, it's like, how many of your customers are a lot like you, right? If you're a family-oriented person, it's not uncommon to see that salesperson with a lot of family-oriented type clients. Or if they're a bachelor and kind of out there and having fun, they tend to find that they work with a lot of clients like that. It's not a blanket statement, but that's common. We connect with those that have a shared value. Very simple. If you graduated from a university, right? You know, I'm from Southern California. You go to USC and you see someone wearing a USC hat. It's like instantly, oh my gosh, where'd you stay? Where was your dorm? Did you go there? Blah, blah. And there's all these questions. You're instantly bonded. You have because of a shared value of where you went to school, or the sports team you care about, or the city that you live in. You find out someone went to the same high school as you 20 years later. Like, you're still connected just because you get present to that. So when you're connecting with your customers and your clients, find those things out. What is it this person really cares about? And you'll know how to connect with them at a more meaningful level. Second one is outcomes. How do they win? What are their goals, right? This is really big in real estate. When you talk about building referral partnerships, right? This prime example, why is Katie running this call for a lot of real estate professionals? Because she wants to help you win. She wants to help you be successful. She's helping you achieve a goal. This is a valued relationship that you have a great reciprocity towards because she's helping you achieve a meaningful goal. Well, now in some of our businesses, that's really clear. Like, well, how do you help a realtor win if you're a loan officer? Well, help them get more deals, right? Help them be better at their job. And then there's other areas like what else is important to them? Are there any charities that they care about? Are they starting a new business? Are they doing any number of things? And you'll find these things out when you're curious about them. The third part is their weakness. And what's fascinating about this one was when I do a lot of very unofficial research. So if we're not friends on Facebook yet, you can find me. Everything is at the Mr. Thank You. I think it might be maxed out in friends, but just click the follow and we'll stay connected. And so I asked a very unofficial question to my Facebook community. And I just said, how do you know somebody is a good friend? And you know, the number one answer I heard back was how somebody showed up during a moment of pain. When my husband lost his job and people showed up and supported and brought food, or after we had the baby and, you know, I couldn't get out of the house and people started, you know, delivering meals, or when we lost one of our children and seeing how many of the community showed up to support us, or when I got really sick and how my family showed up and helped out with certain things. And it was not shocking to realize how much people who press in during moments of pain, we have a high value of that connection. And I say this because in your businesses, a lot of times in sales or in business, we shy away from the pain. Or if we see a customer who's in need, we don't want to lean in because we're busy. Well, I'm going to challenge you right now that if you can lean in and press in during the hard times, you will create loyalty for life. And this is the framework. When you look at all of your relationships, I bet if you take every one of your relationships that you care about, run them through this process, you will see all the correlations. We have a shared value. We've mutually helped each other with a goal, or me or they have helped during a moment of weakness. They'll have one or multiple or all three of those. And if you can bring those to your relationships, it'll deepen the connection. Also, it helps you write a really meaningful thank you card. So I'm sitting on the plane, back to the story. I'm sitting on the plane and I'm thinking, okay, now I got to write this card. And this is the letter that comes out after thinking these questions. And I say, dear pilot, I know it might seem strange to receive a thank you card from a passenger, but as I boarded this plane, I realized how much I missed my family. And then I realized this is what you do every day for your job. I can't imagine how many birthdays, anniversaries, or special events you've sacrificed because of your work. Wow. Not to mention the hundreds, if not thousands of hours you spent in the cockpit training for what you do, because nobody becomes a pilot by accident. All of that to have some bad weather, a slightly bumpy landing, and then have people complain about it. Wow. So whether you hear it enough or not, I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself and everybody on this plane. So
okay, I won't cry. I won't cry. I won't cry.
I write 2 of these cards for each of the pilots, and we land in the next destination. I'm leaving the plane. Pilots are typically still in the cockpit, so I hand them their cards, and then I jump on the next plane because there's actually 2 legs to get from LA to Philadelphia, pretty long flight. So I get to do this twice for 2 different flights. So 4 pilots on 2 flights. So here's what was interesting about it though, Katie. So I don't normally do this, but I had my business stationery with me, which had my name, my cell phone number, and email printed on the card. And this is what got crazy. Within 24 hours of landing in Philadelphia, 3 out of those 4 pilots personally contacted me to say thank you for the card that they received. One went on to say, you know, John, in my 12 years of flying, I have never received a thank you card from a passenger. And I thought, how is that possible? Like these guys with such a big, significant, important job, and no one is taking the time just to say thank you to them. And then I thought, man, if that's the case for these guys with such a big, important job, what about everybody else in their lives, in their jobs, in their marriages, in their relationships? I realized like there's a huge appreciation deficit in the world. And there's a second part to that story, but I'll just like pause myself because that was like the long answer to your very quick question.
No, that was awesome.
Do you want me to keep going on that? Because there's one more part.
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. So the second part to that was we land in Philadelphia and we have this great night, right? So a bunch of like 30 of us entrepreneurial guys have a great opening session. We finish by going out to dinner. So like, hey, we don't know each other, a lot of us. So like, let's get together and fellowship and hang out. So we're walking around downtown Philadelphia. Just like picture that, like just like 30 entrepreneurial dudes, just like high on life, like hiking around downtown inner city Philadelphia. Like it was a sight to see. So we find a restaurant, we come in there, and there was one waitress working that night, and she didn't need to say anything, but you could tell how she felt by the look on her face, which was basically like, oh, y'all just ruined my night, right? Like she was probably ready to leave home and go early, see her family, but we were going to keep her there all night. So her name was Shantae, by the way. So Shantae greets us. She brings us to the back room so that we don't disturb the regular patrons. We go and we have a great night. And what was really interesting about Shantae was that there was a moment she shifted. There was a moment where you could tell she was pretty upset with us or annoyed because we had no reservation either. So it's just like we just showed up. She was pretty annoyed. And then there was like this moment where she kind of like accepted her fate. There was like this experience of like, I can hate this or I can love this. I get to choose here. And so she just showed up really, really well. And she was cracking jokes with us, having a good time. And she took all 30 of our food orders, got all of our food and all of our drink orders. Just like, think about that. Like, that's really amazing work. So by the end of the night, I said, okay, she's my number 5. She's my final card for the day. So I bring some stationery out, which I keep with me at all time at that moment. And this is the card that comes out for Shantae. And I said, dear Shantae, I know it might seem strange to receive a thank you card from a patron, but I just wanted to let you know how great of a job you did tonight. What you don't know is we're a group of entrepreneurial men here for an event to learn how to become better husbands to our wives and fathers to our children while we run our businesses. And tonight was really important because it was about fellowship, and you facilitated it masterfully. We realized that we didn't have a reservation, and you could have turned us away. And you could have even given us terrible service, and we would have understood. But you didn't. You were great. You were gracious, and you helped make tonight amazing. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of myself and everybody in our group. Sincerely, John and the front row dads. So I write this letter. She's kind of in the back of the restaurant, like in the corner, cashing out her tips for the night. And so I walk over and I hand her the card, and she accepts it awkwardly, as most strangers do when I hand them a thank you card. And I start to go to the restroom because I needed to go to the bathroom before we left for our long walk to the hotel. So I go to the bathroom, and when I come out, Shantae is standing there waiting for me with like this big grin on her face. And she has her head cocked to the side, and she just opens her arms and she just runs at me and gives me the biggest bear hug of my life and says, that is the best tip that I've ever been given. And then she sets me down. It's a big hug. And we just looked at each other. We looked at each other for, it might have only been 5 seconds, but it felt like 5 minutes. And it wasn't customer server. It was just like human being having a connection. And as I left the restaurant, I left obviously feeling very, very inspired and very empowered because that was a very meaningful interaction. I also left very confused because what you have to realize is that we left her an enormous tip. Like, think about it, 30 entrepreneurial guys leaving a conference, high on life, right? Like, we gave her a huge tip. And yet she held up this thank you card and said, this is the best tip that I've ever been given. How is that? How is it that someone can have a stack of money and a piece of paper with some words on it, and they say, this is more meaningful? And what you learn in that moment is really about human needs. And it's what really matters to people and what really and what helps them feel alive and really more human. And this is one of those things that people will never ask you, but if you can provide this for them, you will create a customer for life. And it's really simple. Everybody wants to know that they matter. They want to know that they have a place in this world. They want life to have purpose. How many of you, and just by like a show of hands, how many of you in here, I'm going to stop the share for a second here, have had an experience of ever feeling undervalued or appreciated for the work that you did? Yeah, all of us, right? I mean, no knocking anyone's marriage, but it's just the nature of like, that's just what happens in life when you're out there going and getting things done. We all feel that, right? We've all had that experience. So if everybody feels that and it doesn't feel good, and literally people leave companies, people leave marriages, literally with a statement. If you ask them why, I said, I just didn't feel they appreciated me. Like, I don't think they really saw how hard I worked to make this happen. And it's like, if they don't see that in me, I'd rather go somewhere else that does. So here's the thing. What if you made it your job to remind people that they matter? Because at any given moment, they might have forgotten that they do. You know, when you look across the country at like the divorce rates or with depression and suicide, why is that the case? And it's because people just don't feel like they matter. Like they don't feel that life has a purpose. And what if you made it your job to be intentional and being conscious about who people are, what their contributions are, and highlighting it and reflecting it? Does this take time? Yes. I'm not saying that this is going to have like that like life is just perfect all of a sudden because you're writing thank you cards or being intentional about your appreciation. It takes work. But would you be willing to sacrifice a little bit of production for an increase of joy? Like to know that, like to not just like think, but like to believe and know that what you do makes a difference and has an impact. And so that was like that. The crazy thing, Katie, that was day 3.
Wow.
Right? Like, so you can imagine 362 more days of this, right? Now I won't proclaim that every single day was as significant and amazing as that, but that was a really powerful day that set the stage for the rest of this project. And it very clearly stopped being about like just writing a lot of cards, but really understanding humanity at a deeper level and how we can serve and make better connections. So.
And it seems like, not to interject, but my thought is that that joy that you felt is also, I think when you're joyful, your job becomes easier too.
Wow. How valuable would that be to be joyful while you did what you did?
Yes.
Like,
I know it seems obvious, but it just
work. Yeah. Great point. How much harder are you willing to work when you feel good about what you do? And kind of like the precipice for a lot of the work that I get to do in a lot of our consulting and coaching and whatnot is what we do is we help people build a business they love that loves them back. Like we want to help people build something they're actually excited to be engaged in, that also they have this reflection back of how their customers treat them with referrals, with connections, with more business because of how they show up. So there you go. I'll pause myself there for any questions out there because I can keep going. There's lots of stories. There's a whole book on it, by the way, so you're welcome to check that out. But because we can't fit all that into a call. But what if any questions are out there right now that Katie, maybe you have or any of your participants might have?
I guess one of my questions, I think you sort of answered it, but is, now we're in this electronic age.
Yeah.
We're in such an electronic age, and what always holds me back from a lot of thank you cards is just that, okay, I've got to get their address. I've got to do this. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but because even just on Friday, I wanted to send 5 gifts of appreciation to different people I work with, not directly on my team, but different people. And I got their addresses and then I stopped. That part of it was, for me, the intention's definitely there. And I would say for most of our agents, it's probably there too. And we get busy on to the next thing. I don't know if that's a question or just a statement or how you can assist. Yeah. I would think, does anyone else have that problem? I'd be curious because I doubt I'm the only one.
It's a great question. So, I mean, so there's like 2 things. Like number 1 is there's making the time, which is, by the way, why a lot of this is very meaningful to people, because they know you are very busy and you took the time. So because of that, it has a higher level of value. And the other piece of that, and this is just like, I'll just be totally honest, if you're not ready to take that time and make that commitment, I'm not, by the way, the whole purpose of this project was not to tell you guys that you need to do it. Because it was super hard. Like it took an hour and a half on average every single day.
Wow.
And when you scale that time out, an hour and a half times 365 days, I totaled it. It was like 22 and a half consecutive straight days, 24-hour days of writing thank you cards. That's like a percentage of your life. You don't need to do that to have some of these powerful experiences, but just becoming more intentional about it could help, right? Doing 3 cards a day, 1 card a day, 30 cards for a month, whatever. But here's the other part of that lesson, which is I'm going to give you a hack. I'm going to give you guys like a real simple hack to how to do this a lot quicker.
Please.
Okay. Take your phone, periodically just pull up your contacts, find somebody that you haven't spoken with in a while that you really appreciate and value that you might have written a letter to, pull up a text message to them, open the camera button. There's a video part, and on any smartphone, you can record a 30 to 1.5 to 90 second video and just make a video that starts with what I love about you.
I love it. Okay.
Hey, I was just thinking, hey man, I'm just at this event. I was just thinking about you today and just realizing I never got back to you about the referral you sent me. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for that because, you know, we're trying to help 100 families get into homes this year, and like every single connection, every person matters. And I know you went out of your way to make that introduction to your sister. I just want to say that it really means a lot to us, and we're going to serve her at the highest level. And if there's anything I can do to serve you or to help you, just let me know. But I just wanted to send some gratitude your way for the connection you made. Think 30 seconds, you send that. What's cool about that is, number one, internally, it still feels good, just like as if I had written the letter. But when I send it, it's also a lot more immediate. We get feedback. Because a lot of these cards, when I wrote these letters, I didn't hear back from people for a long time, if at all, right? And so, because there's just a lag time, like you got to put the stamp and you got to put it in the mail, then it gets mailed to them, they got to open it, then they got to just, so when I send a video, they get it immediately, they watch it that day, and they often respond back relatively quickly. And so, and it doesn't have to be always about like someone who just did business with you, but someone that you're thinking about that you would love to, that you think you want to acknowledge and appreciate. So that's a really simple thing that you could do, and just commit to doing that, like, you know, like 3 to 5 times a day. Here's a fun thing. Number one, it's great to do first thing in the morning, because that affects emotionally, like it gets you in the train of thinking of noticing the good. It also gets you in the sake of like, when you express, it's one thing to write in a journal what I'm grateful for, but when you express it, it lives totally differently with who you give it to. And you feel like a grateful person, you feel appreciative. Well, that's going to affect how your phone calls go that morning. That's going to affect how your appointments go because of how you're showing up. And so it's kind of like a state hack, like it hacks your state of whatever you were feeling to being one of gratitude. And that is a really powerful place to run your business through.
Love it. That's
yeah,
great.
so
John,
yes,
you will be doing that instead of writing the note card that day if you do the video?
If I do a video, I won't also write a card. I'll do one or the other. And I think that some of them, I don't think one's better or worse. Part of it is like, what can I get to, right? So like if someone immediately does something for me, I do like to write a card, because there's a little bit of like a time bomb effect, where it's like part of the whole gifting strategy, right? We are a gifting logistics company. We help people say thank you for a living. Part of the experience is how they receive it, which is when it is unexpected. So if I send a thank you letter, it might take a week to get to them, and then they get it, and then they're reminded of what they did. It's like, oh wow. So it brings these like positive emotions, versus like when I just have a conversation, then immediately send them a video. It's a little like it's not going to have the same effect. But I think the videos are great for people that you maybe haven't talked to in a while, or you've been meaning to write a thank you letter to, but you just haven't. Just do the video. It's a really quick way to address that.
One more question. What type of note cards do you usually use? I mean, I heard that you have personal stationery, so usually you write on those, or do you actually get a thank you card and write them?
Yeah, so I mean, we do make stationery for Mr. Thank You. We have 3 model designs. They're very simple. One's more of like a masculine, very like stamped letters, thank you. One's more of a feminine one, which is like cursive and gold lettering. And then there's also like a neutral one that says mountains of gratitude, and just got a bunch of mountains on it in green. So we've got a few different ones. So that's what we use now. But before that, I mean, I just went to Amazon. I mean, here's the thing. It can be on anything. that's the best. That's one of the best parts about this, and why our goal now, and I forgot if I mentioned this, but our mission is to inspire 74 million thank you cards written around the world. And I'm not going to write all those. That's for whoever hears this message that feels compelled to. And the thing is that what's great about that is that you don't even have to buy our cards. You don't have to buy Hallmarks. You could write them on a napkin for your waitress. It doesn't have to be complicated. The whole point is that you do it. One of my favorite ones, let's see if I can find it. By the way, this is my wall of gratitude. So when you do write 1,825 thank you cards to people in the world, you do receive some letters back. So this is my wall of gratitude. If anyone ever sends a letter, it does get put up on the wall. So just so you know. So there is one I'm looking for. It's a small one. I went to a conference in...
It's funny, John. It looks like just a small bulletin board till you step back. Can you step back again and let us see that again? Look at that. That's huge. Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
thanks. I just had to get that perception.
It's the wall of the office. It's the whole thing. Okay, but so this is, so I wrote a note to the person who cleaned. So this is, by the way, if you want to get extra service, do this in the beginning of a stay. Write a note. If you're there for multiple days for a hotel, I just would write a letter to the person who's cleaning my room and thanking them for the time and attention they took to creating it and how meaningful it is, because I'm away from my family and it's not often I get peace and quiet, and I really appreciate coming home to a clean room, which I don't always get to at home. So I just really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And by the way, that might sound like kind of ridiculous to do, but it actually like feels really good. Like that's what being grateful does. Gratitude is a reflective state. You have to stop what you're doing. Think about something that's happening. Think about your life. Think about a person and ask yourself, what's great about this right now? That is a game changer, because one of the biggest barriers to being grateful is being busy, because production matters. And I get that, right? But also your experience of life matters. So anywho, I write letters to the people at the hotels all the time. And then oftentimes I actually get one back sitting on my bed. And then this one says, thank you very much. We hope your visit has been pleasant, Susie and Lydia. But just think about that from this component of, this is a complete stranger. I am a complete stranger to them. They're a complete stranger to me. We now have a connection. I know the names of the people who clean my bed. Think about how differently they might approach every detail of how they treat my room. Think about just if you're in the business where no one, frankly, excuse my language, but gives a shit about all the stuff that you really do, but then somebody does and they pause and they say, hey, I just wanted to say, like, Katie, thank you so much for all the extra hours you put into our loan, because I know it was a complicated thing, and this has really been a dream of ours to get our first house. And I just wanted to say, what you did for us just made us feel really comfortable and warm, and we really appreciate you. And if there's anyone else we know that needs a loan, we'll definitely send them your way.
Thank you.
How deep, right? So I don't know if you've gotten that yet, but like, think about, like, that doesn't normally happen, right? Sometimes it might. Sometimes I hear loan officers and realtors get a letter from their clients, but think of when they did, how differently, like, you think about that person. If there's another opportunity to do a deal with them, you treat it differently. And that's where this whole concept of like what you appreciate appreciates. Well, it's like what you appreciate appreciates you back. It's like what you value shows up differently in your world. And so while yes, and by the way, does this have to even be about thank you cards? No. How many different ways can you appreciate somebody, right? Like you can make a video, right? You can send a card. You can send them a closing gift. You can just call them and have a conversation. You could become more conscious and present to every detail of the loan or real estate process to really honor their experience that they're going through. There's so many ways to appreciate people. It's just a matter of like becoming conscious of what you do. So there you go. I'll pause myself on that.
I have a little question. Actually, it might be a big question. I don't know.
Sure, go for it.
What do you think about dropping business cards into note cards, birthday cards, whatever? Because I want people to know who I am and what I do, but I don't want it to come off as like a cheap plug.
Yeah, so that's a great question. As long as you make it personal to some degree, I think it's okay, right? So for me, part of it, like and this might be helpful, Donna, but like part of it was just removing the component of like that I had anything to do with this, because it was printed on my card. Like it's just printed on my thank you cards. So that way I just signed my name, and my name and email were printed on the card.
I like
The other
that.
piece, yes, that's one way.
Yeah.
But I think that if you make it personal and to like say something about them or one of your interactions with them or what you remember about them, then it feels very personal. Because that's the whole thing that, and this is not to knock some of my real estate friends, because I have some fantastic friends in the real estate space, but I get birthday cards sometimes that I know they didn't write. Like, I know it. It's just printed. And it just says from the blankety blank team. And by the way, I appreciate there's a $5 Starbucks gift card. I'm Mr. Thank You. I will always say thank you for thank you gifts. So there's no qualms to be had. But there's something different when someone sends a handwritten letter that says something, hey, I know you're really busy, and I hope that this gives you a chance to go get some coffee because you'll need it, working really hard to serve your wife and your 2 other kids, right? Like, that to me is like, damn, this person knows me and they're making it personal. I have a greater level of trust for this person. So that's what I would say is, as long as you make it personal, I think it's completely appropriate to drop your business card inside.
So
Good question.
where is a resource that we can print a card with our info on it?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, one of the simple, so any graphic designer can probably make them up for you and you can just print them somewhere. So that's one way to do it. So I think that one place that we've used in the past is moo.com, MOO.com, and you can go there and literally just like design it, right? It's like templates, and you can just kind of like add your logo, add your phone number, add things like that. Sometimes those things can be a little difficult to work with. So it's helpful if you can work with like a graphic designer and a printer. If you're in real estate, you probably have access to a marketing person. Just say, hey, can you help me make my own custom stationery? They'll probably do it for free. Or you pay them like $50 to help you design it. There you go. Thanks, Katie. Drop it in there. Cool. I should have like moo.com/Mr. Thank You, but we haven't done that yet. So it's all good.
I know, that would be a good idea.
It's all
Don't
good.
don't you have cards as well?
We do, yeah. So we make our own stationery. So Mr. Thank You stationery, which is really beautiful and great. We're actually on our first, we actually just had 10,000 cards printed. And so those are going to be available to the public. Well, they're available for pre-order now. So they're being printed and shipped to us. So if you want to order any thank you cards, here, I'll tell you what, do you mind if I put my contact info in the chat box for everybody?
Please.
Go for it, please.
All right, let me do a quick little thing here. So this is the, I'll give you 3 things. One, so if you want to order the book has a significant, like it has all the stories. Like there's obviously a lot of things that happen we can't really talk about today or there's no time for.
Okay.
So if you want to get a copy of the book, it's on Amazon. It's called the Mr. Thank You Project. So you can click that link and go there, or just Google it, look up Mr. Thank You Project book and you'll find it. If you want to email me directly, I do a thing as well. So if you want to order a copy of our book in bulk for your clients as like thank you gifts or appreciation gifts, I mean, it's a book on gratitude, it kind of makes sense. But if that's something that would be of value for you, and you want to do them at scale, just shoot an email to me directly, just john@mrthankyou.com. We'll just give you some pricing on what it looks like to buy them in bulk, and then we can ship them out to wherever you want in the country. And then our website is mrthankyou.com, so pretty clear right there. So there you go.
Hey, John, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did pre-order your book, and I read it this week, and I will totally attest. It is a fantastic book. I highlighted so much under it. But you have a part at the very end where you talk about the ROI of gratitude. And I know that the point of writing a card, especially in business, isn't for the bottom line, but we are all business people here, and that's part of what we do. So can you talk a little bit about the ROI of gratitude?
Yeah.
You actually saw that impact your business as well?
Great question. So yeah, there is a chapter of the book called the ROI of Gratitude, because I do speak to a lot of businesses. And as much as people say, this sounds so great, John, but how does this make me more money, right? Like how does this actually influence our bottom line or our business? So I couldn't tell you that during the project, because it was just like, I was in the middle of it. But at the end, because I've been in business for 18 years, and our systems and processes are pretty dialed in, right? So we know what we do. We know how to do it really efficiently and effectively. So when you look, whenever you're implementing something, a strategy or making an investment, right, in Zillow or any lead capturing systems or anything, you have to vet the investment to see, is this worth it? Did this generate more than we spent on it? So we literally tracked that. And I looked at, so the total cost of the Mr. Thank You project was I think it was like just under $2,000. And that came from like buying cards, buying stamps, and sometimes I would send it with a gift or something like that. So it totaled out right around $2,000. And then we looked at like, well, what came from that? And I can, like, there's immediate things that I can tell you. There's two parts of this. There's what did we gain and what did we not lose? All right, so let me explain. What did we gain was we had people who literally directly called and ordered because they said, hey, my sister works with you. And she liked what the knives or whatever, the closing gifts. She's like, she liked them. And then she got your letter in the mail and she's like, oh my gosh, this guy's amazing. And she just literally called me and said, find the guy who writes the thank you cards. Like, you need to go buy from him. And it was this literal, because the card was sent, they did it. We had another client who's more of like an investor type client who does like a little bit larger scale. He's a contractor. He's in the plumbing business. So he buys like lots of gifts to give out to his clients. He ordered a couple of things. And when I sent him the card, I sent it with a little joke with a Band-Aid that says like, stop cutting yourself, because he cut himself with one of his Cutco knives. It's kind of funny. He called me back 2 days later to place an order that was 5 times larger than the one he had just placed. Because we made it personal, because we showed him or the person that we're listening that we pay attention to. One of the main things people need, so a lot of my sales training is like psychology, like why do people make decisions? What people need to make really big decisions or to give you a really good referral is a significant level of trust. And part of the way we build trust is by making things personal to them. And it goes back to like our tribal days of like, I call this like tribal connection, where it's like, why be in a tribe? Because it's safer, right? Because I'm in relationship with you, I might not die tomorrow, right? Like, or because I'm in a relationship with you, you're great at, picking up, like, getting food out there. So like, we'll be in a relationship. So we seek relationships where we're safe. And so one of the ways we do that is by making it personal with the individual, because ultimately what happens is I don't have to ask you to raise your hand because everybody feels this. How many of you ever bought something and then felt like another number? Like bought something and feel like you're just another customer, right? Like they mail it to you and they misspell your name, or they misspell your wife's name or your spouse's name, or something about it that just has you feel like, I don't think they actually even know who I am. Like, I'm just not even a real person. I'm a number in your database, like customer number 1246875. And so that personal connection with that touch, it makes a really significant connection to them. So that's like one piece of it is like, number one, actively it does generate business. That right there covered all of our costs, right? Just 2 of those sales covered all of our costs for the entire thing. The other part was business we didn't lose. So this was a really interesting metric. Every company, every business has what's called an attrition rate. Attrition is basically someone who says yes that changes their mind, right? Somebody who starts a loan process that ultimately falls out for whatever reason, or they choose a different loan officer. Somebody who starts in the middle of a transaction with you listing their home and then they get cold feet and then they pull out. That's called attrition. Somebody who said yes that eventually says no before the deal is over. Retail has this. Somebody buys a shirt and it's like, oh, this doesn't fit. They turn it back. It's that when you find out those metrics, most businesses actually don't pay attention to their attrition rate, but it's actually shocking because when you can get better at retention over attrition, like you can actually skyrocket your profitability with no extra work. So that, which is really kind of where our business focuses. And so what we found, again, our processes are the same. Nothing changed, but adding a thank you card to every single customer. And here's how we did it. The moment we sign a contract for the deal, right? So if you're the realtor, you might do it right after they sign a listing contract or a buyer's contract or whatever you would do the moment you start showing people houses. We would send a thank you card before we could physically ship them their product. And we would say all those things that I mentioned. Hey, thank you for your business. We really appreciate you. So nice to talk about the thing that you really care about, whatever. And then we added this line. We said, by the way, if you have any questions, problems, or when you're ready for more, give us a call. We are happy to help. Sincerely, John Israel and team. By adding that statement, a majority of our clients who would have, because we know the metric, it's about 5% attrition for our business. 5% of customers who say yes pull out for whatever reason. And that's just, you know, that's just our metric. That number dropped from 5% to 2.6% for the year.
Wow.
That's a 50% decrease in attrition. That is massive when you look at the metrics of growing profitability without increasing sales. And what we learned out of that, because I wanted to pay attention to, like, why did that work? And what we learned was because we included this statement, if you have any question, we made it personal, so you knew it was from us. It wasn't just this random letter. We made it personal, and then we said, if you have any questions, problems, or when you're ready for more, give us a call. So the people who had a problem called first, so we could help them, so we could troubleshoot it with them, so that we could walk through what their fears were, what their concerns were. And when you have a level of trust with your customer, they lean in and they're like, okay, because sometimes customers give you weird answers and they say stupid things, and it's just like, that's not your real issue. Why are you saying that? And it's because there's some level of a lack of trust. And it's not to be taken personal, it's just to be noticed as what's going on. And when we have a higher level of trust, they'll be honest with us. And not every product is for every customer every time. You shouldn't close every single loan you start for a lot of reasons. You shouldn't close every customer you start with, because some customers aren't built or set up to buy the home that they think they want to buy. So it's okay if you don't sell everything to everybody all the time. The whole point is, how can you tighten the ship and close in on the reins of how to be the most efficient and effective with who you do have to work with? Because as markets shift and we get less customer base and it's hard, we don't have as many deals to work with, efficiency is the name of the game. And fixing attrition is one of the most powerful things that you can do to increase your profitability in your company.
So good.
Well, that was really great. Great question, Katie.
The end. Or whatever.
Wow.
The end. But there you go. That's what we learned.
I thought that was really powerful, all that information. It makes me want to, like, really, you know, I have a team and we all talk to different people, but I think that the attrition definitely happens whether you want it or not. And I would think on real estate it does as well. You know, you talk to a client once and then, you know, they find another, like I hear it all the time, oh, I'm working with another agent now. And maybe if we had, you know, reached out differently as that, we'd keep them, you know, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And Katie, I just want to be totally frank with everybody. I am not telling you the answer to all of your business problems is to write more thank you cards, right? I really want you to get.
I wish it was.
I wish it was that simple, because then everyone would just, you know, write lots of thank you cards. The whole point, this is like, to bring this home, is to be conscious of every person. Like, here's the deal. No one deal will make your career, but every deal counts. If something doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. But if we can focus with every deal like it really matters, and we become intentional, like a lot of the consulting we do now for businesses or teams is we walk through their client process. And we just look and we just say, where's the holes in the boat? What's going on? So, because here's the moment. It's the moment the customer feels like a number, not a human. It's the moment they feel like I'm just another cog in the wheel for this person to hit their sales goal or whatever, rather than this person is really here to take care of me. And is that there's a whole, so I live in Dallas, Texas, so I do a CE accredited training called the emotional life cycle of a customer. And it's basically what happens emotionally for a person from the moment they decide to do business with somebody and ultimately stop. And a lot of this comes to the emotional setup of how people feel through the buying process. And it relates to real estate, it relates to knife sales, it relates to any business, because we're dealing with human beings, and human beings are emotional, like it or not. And so we're just called to be more intentional about our process.
Well, and I also like the thing, and I hope other people hear it too, because I know a lot of you have transaction coordinators and, you know, all these other people who support us in the back end, because I know it's not just me. I have a great team who definitely supports me in the back end. And so just the whole thing is just like inspiring, you know, I like it.
Yeah. Can I give like Katie Shive a shout out, by the way?
Oh,
because
please.
like, all right. So, because Katie, I'm doing this interview with Katie Rice here. I just met Katie Rice because Katie Shive like prospected me. She heard me on a mortgage podcast. And she was like, hey, can you come and do this thing? And then I'm just like, oh, like, so Katie Shive is like totally the loan officer who's doing all this stuff. And then I find out, I'm like, oh, and it's not like, oh, she's not the loan officer, but I'm like, wow, what a great team member who's very intentional about the success of the business. she knows her role. She knows that she has
She's
influence.
very-
And she was given the opportunity to do that, and she killed it. She did a great job. She set me up really powerful. She read my book. She watched my TED. Oh my gosh. Like, do you know how many times I jump on these interviews and people are meeting me first time? I have no idea who the hell I am. And I'm just like, all right, cool. Like, let's jam. We create something good, but it's like to really acknowledge Katie Shive. Like, you really did a great job today.
She's been nailing it all. Since COVID started, Katie has helped us get like some of these amazing speakers, and then we've had these amazing agents who have taken us up on, you know, growing their businesses, because I think it was definitely a tough time. And so she kept us all focused on how to grow our businesses rather than how to shrink it. So I will also give a shout out to Katie.
There you go. Katie for president. Hey, I want to be really aware and respectful of time. So it's the 32-minute mark. I think we were scheduled for an hour. So, I mean, I'm okay with a couple more minutes for questions, but I just want to be aware of like everyone's time. So Katie Rice, I'll let you kind of lead here. So if there's more questions, I'm happy to stick around for a couple more minutes. Or if not, I'll let you lead here.
And John, thank you so much. I mean, I'm super inspired. And so I am definitely going to write those 5 thank you cards I started on Friday, because I think thank you cards will be a little bit more powerful. But if I can't get to them, I'll send out a video. So thanks for that tip too.
Yeah, awesome.
We're gonna go on Amazon and order the book soon here.
Yeah. If you want,
order the book.
Yeah, please do. And our goal, so just to like clarify really for everyone here to know like who we are and what we're about. You got to hear our message. It's not about me just writing lots of thank you cards anymore, about the glorification of John Israel. It's really getting this message out to more people, because like I can't tell you how many times I've finished a conversation like this and then had somebody email me back and say, I really appreciate what you just said and what you did, because my daughter is a waitress, because my brother-in-law is a pilot, and you're right, what they go through is so hard. So to know that somebody is out there acknowledging them, like really just helps me feel good, and I want to do my part. So like really the purpose of everything now is not about me doing more of a John Israel thing to get more glory. It's really to like give people an opportunity for humanity to be served at a higher level. Right. So like our mission is to elevate the level of gratitude on the planet. It's also to rehumanize the workplace and marketplace, because it's so hard when it's so easy to quote unquote scale. I mean, the best way to scale is through a quality, loving relationship. We really believe that. So our mission this year is to give this message 100 times. So I was literally doing a Rotary speech earlier today. On this call, I do probably about 3 to 5 of these every week. If there's a community that you're a part of that you feel this message to be really relevant for, shoot me an email, john@mrthankyou.com. I can't say yes to everything, but I'll start saying no when I don't have the time for it. Fortunately, I don't have to jump on a plane anymore, so it's way easier than having to fly to California, although I'd love to go home and visit my family, but grateful to do this virtually. So if there's any events that you feel this would be relevant, our goal is to do 100 of these keynotes. The second piece is if you want to order any books, shoot me an email, john@mrthankyou.com. Happy to send some out to you. Or if you want to order any cards or ask about closing gifts, just shoot me an email, john@mrthankyou.com. Or if you're not ready for any of that and you just want to stay in touch, just go to mrthankyou.com, just sign up for our newsletter, and we'll stay in touch. That's it.
And I'd also like to thank all of you guys. You guys have been such a support to us, and that's why Katie and I continue to want to do this, is we really care about you guys, and we really want to see you guys succeed. From the bottom of our hearts. I know that's our whole mission in doing this, because it would be easier just to put our heads down and do some other things, but we really get great joy out of giving back to you guys as well. So thank you for letting us be part of your lives.